I'm Judy from YayBeads, and I recently received a request from a friend of mine at Annie K Designs if I would show her how to make a dangle for a keychain. I figured I may as well do it on a video and share it. These are really simple, it requires very few ingredients, and it's just fun. And in terms of imagination, the sky's the limit. So these are the materials you need. You need a little dangle. You need some beads for your the top part of the dangle. You of course need a keychain. You don't need to have the clamp on it, but I like those. I collect these whenever I find them. And these are little beading crimps. So when you order them, just look for something called a crimp on a jewelry website. And this is an important little tidbit. This is the thread, the beading wire itself. It's this particular one I really like. I've used it for years. It's stainless steel and nylon coated, so it's very strong and it's nice and smooth. It's this diameter is a nice thickness. It's not too bulky, and it's not so thin that it's going to pull out or break. It's pretty hefty. And 49 strands is important because, as you can see in this diagram, this is a cross piece, and it shows you that actually 49 wires running through the middle of this beading wire. That means that it's very flexible. If it was just one wire, it'd be really stiff. But this is very flexible. And it also, because there are so many strands, it's less likely to get metal fatigue and break on you, which of course is very important. So I've cut about a 6-inch length of the beading wire. I used regular cutters, but any kind of cutter. You can just, bum some off your husband's workbench. Ooh, that was sexist. Actually, in our case, it would be off of my workbench, but there you have it. So here we go. Take your charm and put it through the end. Put it through the end of your beading wire, and then put the little crimp on it. Now this is like a very tiny short tube. I'm going to slide one end through the tube, and then I'm going to slide the other end through the tube and make a loop. Now one end, let's untangle this here, one end is going to be long and the other end is going to be fairly short. So I'm going to shorten up this tail a little bit. There we go. So now I have my beading wire and I have my little tail on here. And my crimp and a nice little dangle. Now if I don't have these are called crimp pliers, and they just make kind of a fancy shape so you can tighten it but make a little tube after it folds over so it looks nice and it's low profile. But you can use any kind of flat nose pliers and just smush it down. As long as you can pull on it and it holds, it's fine. With these little guys, you just this down. You can see this, and it's squished in the middle, and there's a little tube now on either side, much smaller, and the wires fit in that. The beading wire fits in that. Now I'm going to take it sideways and squeeze it. So it's just basically a low profile round. It's pretty. But the important thing is you can yank on it and it's not going to come out. Okay, so that's done. I am not going to cut off this tail. I am going to start by beading. And when I put the first few beads on, I'm going to make sure that tail goes through the beads hole at the same time. And that will lock in the tail and just keep it looking nice. I have to do this for a few. pinch it and it goes on through. As long as it's got at least 3, that should be good. Looks like this one's going to be 4 beads, but you know what they say, the more the merrier. But if you go much more than this, it's just too much labor. All right, so now I'm just going to finish stringing these on, and I'm going to keep putting them on until it's comfortable in my hand. These particular beads are a faceted rondelle made out of check glass, and the color is iris dichroic glass. The Czechs are actually very famous for their treatment of glass. And I like these particular beads partly because they're bright and sparkly. See what happens when you don't get that in the hole. You've got a little gap here, but now it's slipped in. So that fits in my hand. Maybe a couple more. Okay, so it's pretty easy to see, although if my eyes were any worse, I'd probably have gone for a bright red bead. Now I'm going to take the second crimp and run it through the beading wire, and it will stop at the top of the bead here. And then I'll pass it through the keychain and run the tail back through the crimp. I'm also going to thread this tail through about 3 of the beads. I can pull it loose here so I can see what I'm doing, and there it is. So I just pull this through. I want the beads tight, but I don't want my loop too small, and I can pull this down a little bit when I'm done here. So now this is nicely tucked in. I'm just going to cut the tail. Be careful not to cut the main line there. And then I'll just come back and crimp this. You don't want your beads too tight. That's too loose. So I'm going to slide this down a little bit. Oops. Let's put that back in there. Okay, there you go. You want some flexibility, but you don't want it too loose. So slide the crimp down. And tighten it up. This probably could stand to be a little tighter. And that's nicely finished. So now it feels good in the hand, and it's very strong and sturdy. Those crimps aren't going to loosen up and fall out. And there you have a nice little keychain. If you want, you can also make this a smaller loop. And instead of putting it on a keychain, make yourself a pair of earrings. The same techniques work. So, have fun, use your imagination, the sky's the limit.